Hello YouTube, Skylar here, and welcome to Gone Riding. The purpose of this video is to tell you a little bit about myself and what I plan on doing here on this channel. A little about my bikes, and I have a pretty unique story to tell about something that happened to me on one of my first long distance trips. I've had this channel up and running for about a year, but I haven't been very active. It was kind of just a little side thing to document some of my rides, but I'd like to get more active and I want to put out some good quality content. A little about me. I'm 32, been riding since I was about 12. I started out on a 2001 Honda XR100R. I still have that bike. It still runs great. My son currently rides it when we go out. I live in the Pacific Northwest. In general, I just love to ride motorcycles. My first street legal bike was a 1986 Honda Rebel 450 that my dad gave me when I was 18. It was a great bike, had a great time on it, and it really got me addicted. But you know, life happens. A few years later, my son was born, and I needed to sell the bike. I always kept riding off-road, but I didn't have a street legal bike until about 3 years ago, which brings me to my next topic. What I have in my stable right now. So in addition to the XR, I have a 2018 KLR 650 and a 2020 KLX 230. I'll talk a little bit more about those later on in this video, but I plan on going a little more in-depth with a walk around and review of each of my bikes. Now my goal here, what I want this channel to consist of, will be a lot of trail riding. I'll have some moto camping. I'll have some gear reviews and a few moto vlogs from time to time. This video, for instance, is my first moto vlog type video. I have a big off-road trip coming up. I'm going to do the Washington Backcountry Discovery Route. It's also known as the Wobder. There are backcountry discovery routes all throughout the United States. But I'll be heading out on this one in early June. I'm preparing for that right now. I'm really looking forward to it. This will be my longest duration, longest distance dual sport adventure ride that I've gone on. The Wobder is 600 miles from the Oregon-Washington border to the border of Canada. It's mostly off-road, but there are some highway sections. One of the cool things about this ride is you can ride it however you want. It usually takes 4 to 6 days. You'll have anything from guys riding, big BMW 1200 GS adventure bikes and staying in hotels every night and eating at restaurants. Or you could go out and take a Honda CRF 250 and camp off your bike for 5 days. It's really kind of up to you. I'm planning on landing somewhere in between. Of course, I'm going to make a video about that, so you can look forward to that. One of the big appeals to this trip for me are the amazing views. Elevation varies anywhere from nearly sea level to about 7,000 feet. It covers a wide variety of terrain. I'm not really going to rush. I'm planning on taking about 5 days, but I'm giving myself plenty of time to do it, so I don't feel rushed if I deviate from my initial schedule. I'll be taking my KLR 650 on this trip, because you just can't stop a KLR. Now, you may be wondering why I have two dual sports. The short answer is functionality. I love riding cruisers, but when I initially bought the KLR, I was only going to have one bike. So I wanted something I could take off-road and I could also commute with. When I had the opportunity a couple years later to buy another bike, I really considered going with a full-on dirt bike. But when I decided on the dual sport version of the KLX, it was mainly because I have some trails just a couple miles from my house. And it's a whole lot easier riding to the trails than loading up in the truck, and I don't know, I'm kind of lazy in that respect. And the KLX, even the dual sport model, being nearly 150 pounds lighter than the KLR and a lot more off-road oriented, it felt like I was on a lightweight two-stroke in comparison. So as I said earlier, I'll make some videos a little later, having a more in-depth walk around and review of my bikes. I'll just give you a quick little overview right now. The KLR 650, the thing's a workhorse. I've got 15,000 miles on it. I've run Shinko 705s and Motaz Tractionator Adventure tires. I was really happy with both sets of tires. They're very different tires, but they both excel at what they're made for. I'm planning on running some Shinko 244s for the Wobder. I don't want anything too aggressive since there are highway sections, and I do have to ride 250 miles to get to the start and 300 miles home. The clips I'm showing right now in this video are from my first ride after replacing my radiator and the doohickey. The doohickey is a nickname for the KLR's cam chain tensioner. They're notorious for braking on the Gen 1 KLRs, and the spring is known to brake on the Gen 2s, which is what I have. Mine turned out to still be in one piece, but you never know until you get to that point. It's just a good peace of mind to know your components are good, especially getting ready to head out on a trip. The KLX is basically a street legal dirt bike. It's a little heavier than the dirt bike model, but it's done everything I've needed it to do. I have a few hundred miles on it. I'm running Kenda K760 Trackmasters. At this point, the only thing I've done to that bike is replace the headlights with LEDs and remove the passenger pegs. I did fab up a skid plate too, but that's about it. There's not a whole lot of mods available for these bikes yet. Now, if you made it to this point in the video, I have a treat for you. The 2.5 years ago, my buddy and I set out on our first big adventure ride. It was only planned to be a couple days, and we were going to ride a couple sections of the Wobbler throughout. We both worked night shift at the time. We got off work Friday morning, headed to our houses, loaded up our bikes, and took off for the day. We rode about 250 miles till we got to the first spot we were going to set up camp. We set up, unloaded our bikes, and took off on a dirt ride. I was on my KLR, my buddy was on a Triumph Tiger Explorer 1200 adventure bike. So we rode for a few hours, and on our way back to the camp spot we were staying at, we're back on pavement. We come around a corner and find a herd of free-range cattle in the road. Now, there are a lot of people that have hit cows and hit deer, but there are not a lot of people that have been hit by a cow. So I came around this corner, and one of the cows got spooked, charged me, and for lack of a better term, T-boned me. I went down, the cow went down. I was going about 35 miles an hour, and there just wasn't enough time to slow down before the chaos ensued. My bike's outfitted with crash bars, so it came out just fine. A few scrapes on those, no big deal. It was 105 degrees that day, so I wasn't wearing my normal jacket for our off-road section, but luckily I picked up one of those armored mesh shirts on Amazon for like $40, and it was worth every penny. My knee got scraped up a little bit, but one big lesson I did learn that day was to wear the proper riding boots. I was not. So I broke my big toe on my left foot, which made shifting very uncomfortable. The ride back to camp wasn't too bad. I was still in a little bit of shock, but I could feel that there was something up with my foot. When I took my boot off at camp, it wasn't very pretty, and we ended up cutting the trip short and riding home the next day. I was pretty sore, and didn't think I could ride off-road with my foot in that condition. All in all, it was an exciting trip, and I did get a pretty unique story out of it. Definite appreciation for the correct gear. Well, I'm going to end it here. Thank you for watching, and if you want to, like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.